evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Good evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Boy, do we have a show lined up for you here tonight, and we're starting on the road to 500. I believe there's only about 15 episodes left before we hit that 500 mark, or actually more than that, I'm sorry. Anyway, about 35 episodes, something like that. But anyway, obviously I'm not here alone tonight. As you know, we always have somebody riding shotgun with us. So let's go ahead and get him in here. He is the one and only Gabriel Arsene. How's it going?
Hey, good evening, Haas. I'm doing pretty good. How are you? This is going to be a different kind of show tonight. It's a different dynamic. I mean, we've run some shows together, but it's never just been me and you, So it's like hopefully we get a little bit of a different dynamic going on tonight.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good show, and looking forward to it. So, how's it going tonight?
It's actually pretty good. I have a funny story. We might have the opportunity to have my mom watching the show tonight. She happened to see the Facebook post you tagged me in. I don't know if you saw her comment, but just in case she is watching, hi mom. I love you. I'll try not to swear too much. Can't be too careful, but it's pro wrestling. But we got a lot to talk about in terms of wrestling tonight. I mean, how's everything been with you, Haas?
Oh, everything's going good. Went to a good show this past week. Oh yeah, yeah. It's been cold. Got about 3 inches of snow out there, but it is what it is. Had a good weekend. Went to a good WDWA show. Saw our guest tonight, Kaylin Patrick. Got to see him there, and good show all around. Got to see Kakoa, the Hawaiian Warrior, who actually lives down in Florida. So he's down your neck of the country.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to stop and pay him a visit one of these days, huh?
Yeah, he actually he runs a wrestling school down there and everything. So he's definitely worth checking out if he's within a distance of you.
My biggest thing right now is my car, but I promise you, if I figure out my traveling situation, he could be 2 hours away and I'll still make that trip just because I really want to try and get my foot in this. But I appreciate the recommendation because Lord knows I need everything I can get as far as wrestling goes. But so he had an opportunity to go out there towards the Midwest.
Yeah, he's actually out this way quite frequently. He used to live in Pennsylvania. And
Really?
We've had him on the show here a couple times, and he's the world heavyweight champion right now for WDWA, and so he actually makes up his way quite frequently. But of course, we got housekeeping we got to take care of here. So real quick, let's go ahead and shout out those sponsors there. As always, we like to thank our sponsors, Royal Mills Transportation, which is Dewan Mills out there in Kansas City. And then you got the Nobleman's Barber Lounge, KCMO, ask for Pete the Barber. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall, Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeyes Designs, where you can get your very own Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler. And, of course, the FWWC, the World Premier Fantasy Wrestling Group. So always love to shout out those great sponsors because couldn't do what we do without both the sponsors and the fans. So want to thank the fans for tuning in tonight And whether you're actually tuning in live or whether you're catching the replay, always great to have you tuning in.
Always. We wouldn't be able to do what we do as much fun as we have doing if it wasn't for the fans. I mean, they keep the interaction going. I mean, sometimes it's actually leverage for us because some fans actually give us opportunities to get some of the guests that we get on the show, or they help us out as far as sponsors. Yeah, I mean, we use this word a lot, but I think the Wrestle Talk podcast family, it always gets bigger, whether it's people showing up on the shows, whether it's people, giving us out to go to events, whether it's people, commenting. We love to see it, and it makes the show that much more entertaining for us and for you guys. So just to say we love you all, from the bottom of our hearts. But you ready to talk some wrestling, Haas? You ready to jump into this? I mean, wait. We can't forget the most important part.
That's
though.
right. We've got one more bit of housekeeping there that, like, as we always do, we can't start out without our national anthem, of course, because we have to pay homage to the best damn country around, that being America.
America, damn it.
Over your heart, remove your hats for the playing of the national anthem.
Never gets any easier, does it?
Brings a tear to your eye every time, or blood to your ears, one of the two.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely a tear in your eye. I just don't know if it's the happy kind of tear. That's all. But
so of course, shout out to Susie tuning in tonight.
Good old Sister Haas in the comment section. We love to see it.
Sunny Money. What's
good
up,
to see you,
brother?
bro. Always good to have you in the comment section, brother. We're hoping to have you on the next. I'm so excited for his match with Rodell coming up at Royal Rumble, because I hope if we do get that footage of him either eating a pizza or Rodell drinking the coffee, we got to post that in the chat, we have to show it on the show, right?
Live right here. It's happening live here on the show.
Yes.
So,
we're going to play that clip for years to come. Even if the Wrestle Talk podcast ends at 500, we're going to hang that video over whoever happens to be the loser for years to come. I promise you, we'll make t-shirts.
If you are tuning in from another platform, such as the FWWC's webpage or one of the other web pages, please make sure you click to allow at the top of the screen so we know who you are, because we'd love to interact with you, but definitely, we want to know who we're interacting with. And shout out to Jessica. She's from the WDWA family, so plenty of people tuning in. And we got Diablo tuning in.
Vega. It's always good to hear from him. One of our former FWWC members currently wrestling on the circuit right now. I believe he's out in out in Kansas City, or am I mistaken? He's in the Midwest, right?
He lives in Kansas City, so
yes, I know. I'm doing my research.
Not... So all right, so let's go ahead and get into that high spot segment, and as always, DJ.
Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like clear chops. We talk shop, coming through the screens of a laptop and non-stop like I'm running speakers of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. Like a clock flash, look like a barely fly. Now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast. Now they know we about to start the show.
That man. DJ Money always hits hard, man. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be Wrestle Talk podcast without it, and it wouldn't be High Spots without DJ Money sending us in. So we got a lot to talk about wrestling wise. I tried to get as many high spots as I could, John Haas. So I'm hoping we can get a. I'm figure me and you could stretch that into an hour and a half, right? Just a couple, just talk wrestling.
We don't even have to make an hour and a half. I mean, we could stretch it in the whole 2 hours if we had
Who's
to.
gonna stop us, right? It's me and you. Nobody's
Well,
here
but
to
I-
mitigate this.
Well, but I can tell you, as always, snippets of truth should be coming up tonight. I've gotten confirmation that we'll be having snippets of truth, and so look forwards to that as always. And I'm not sure if Dewan will be joining us later or not. I sent him the link, so we still got to get to that. And our guest is actually already backstage, sitting waiting. So hey, it's nice to see that he's anxious to get on the show tonight. So definitely don't want to stretch it out an hour and a half, but but we could if we needed to.
Whenever it comes down to it. Hello, Michael McIntosh. Welcome to the show. Glad you could make it. So we got
So
our randomizer set, or we had a
yeah,
couple more comments we wanted to try and
let's
call
go
out
ahead
first.
and get that randomizer fired up here and see what it's going to bring up for high spots tonight.
Ooh, this is actually recent news. All
So we
right.
have Seth Rollins. Now, question is, what is the question about Seth Rollins?
I think I have it written down, actually. Is it not loading?
There we go.
All righty. Did you want to
Randomizer
read this
just
off?
took a moment.
That's okay.
So, with Rollins' reported injury last night, who's next for the WH Championship?
This is actually recent news too. He got injured in his match with Jinder, I think. So there's no confirmation on if he's like going to be out, or if he's like just injured and he's going to work injured before he drops the title. But I mean, you want to take us off on this, Haas? I mean, if you had to pick anybody to sort of pick up the mantle if he is injured, like let's say it is vacated, I mean, who would be at the top of your list to win the World Heavyweight Championship right now in 2024?
Well, obviously, if I'm WWE, you've got that Money in the Bank contract out there, and I'm
That's true.
sure they'll be looking at that. And I'm sure with WWE they're going to want to go towards CM Junk, but
you're not a big fan of Phil Brooks, are you? Not exactly.
So, and Drew, he's a bit for it, and Susie seems to think Drew would be a good one to put it on.
Mm-hmm.
So, who do you think would be good?
I mean, I have my choices, but I guess we can just go down the list here to kind of narrow it down to sort of build up what you were talking about. So, as far as CM Punk, I feel like it's still too soon. That's the thing. It's like, and I'm not even like the biggest, hater of Punk right now, because I think he's in a spot to potentially give back. I was one of the big people who wants him to lose at Mania to Rollins because I thought that'd be a big win. And for Punk, it's more about just getting his WrestleMania main event than anything. I think he's very much. Could he use a world title? Maybe. Does he need one? I don't think so. I think Punk is still at that part where people are still talking about him, to where does it make sense for him to maybe win the Rumble or the Elimination Chamber potentially, or down the line? Yes. But if anything, I'm kind of with you and Susie on this, where I think McIntyre would be a better fit, because I mean, we know he can go. That's the thing. He's very much proven he can handle that championship. And it seems like he's waiting for something to do, like the past, I want to say year and a half or so. It's like he has been wrestling. He had the Intercontinental Championship match with Gunther. He had the triple threat back at Mania. And I mean, did he have a match with Rollins recently for the belt? I can't remember. Or did he?
Yeah, he's had a couple matches with Rollins for the belt, and he's come up short in both of them. And it makes me wonder. There was a rumor going around at one point that they weren't going to use Drew to his potential. They were basically going to keep him on the shelf and make him become broken goods. And
did you take meds?
shut up.
uh,
um,
guest spot from Alexa. But
but yeah, there was that rumor going around, and I hope that's not the case. That they're just kind of making him lose time after time, hoping and eventually his contract will run out and nobody will want him.
mhm.
But it's hard to say what they're really planning. You know how
So,
it's gotten better since Triple H took over, but you,
but
you
can I?
never you never know.
Well, I wanted to add to that. Do you think Drew needs this title win to sort of validate himself? Like, do you think he's sort of getting lost in the shuffle, especially with the addition of, CM Punk? And I know, well, I mean, AJ Styles return, Randy Orton coming back. I mean, do you think maybe he needs this to sort of re-establish himself back in the WWE, given he has lost so many times and it's been a while since he's held gold? I mean, do you think that would help? Sort of, I mean, do you think this is something that the world heavyweight title needs? Like, I guess let me phrase it this way. Do you think the belt needs Drew, or do you think Drew needs the belt? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I would say Drew needs the belt more than the belt needs him,
Hmm.
honestly. You know, it's not necessarily that Drew needs a belt, but he needs some type of boost
For his
to
stock, you would
really
say.
propel his name back up there.
So, new world heavyweight champion, you think would be the one to do it for him?
I think it would definitely help. Like I say, is that the only way they can do it? Probably not. I mean, they could do some notable feuds with him and really bring him back up. But I
One.
think now they're just kind of throwing him out there just to keep him active.
Keeping him busy without actually doing anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. The thing is, too, I think that belt, like from a workman's perspective, I definitely think that belt is right up Drew's alley because they're really emphasizing ever since Rollins won the belt that this is like the workhorse belt. Like, of the two world titles, this is something that, a Seth Rollins, a guy, that we know, yeah, he has been a WWE guy, but you ever notice that a lot of the challengers are very much either NXTs or your Ring of Honors or your returning people from TNAs, your Impacts, because we had Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, we had Finn Balor challenge for the belt, Sami Zayn. So it's like, if anything, I think that belt definitely fits for Drew because we know he can go. Like, I mean, workhorse. You want to talk about workhorse? This dude's a stallion, but also just in terms of matchup, because me personally, I still think there's a lot of untapped potential match wise for Drew to be having. So if he can have a belt there and really create a platform for people to try and take it off of him, because I believe him as a genuine champion. I mean, you'd be hard pressed not to, right? Yes, to answer your question, Aaron, you did miss the national anthem, thankfully. But
We could
was
play it for you again. No, not really.
but just to throw out any other names there, I mean, we have a couple people still on SmackDown running. I mean, would you want to see, a Shinsuke? I mean, any previous challengers that he's had? I mean, would you like to see a Finn Balor? Me personally, I would because if anything, the way you feel about Drew winning that belt, I feel like Balor needs that even more. Just because it feels weird to have him challenge for it back at SummerSlam, and then he's just. I mean, yeah, I know he's part of Judgment Day. I know he's doing his thing with Damian Priest and the tag team, but I miss NXT Balor. When he went back down and it was like he came two-time champion and he really got that edge to him and he was kicking ass. It's like, it's not that I don't want him to leave the Judgment Day or, hold up. Sorry about that.
we did hear you. Now we don't.
There we go. Working.
There we are.
There we
Now
go.
we got you.
I accidentally hit the microphone on my button, but
You're just getting so excited here.
oh, of course, we're talking wrestling, but just to throw a very, very random name out there, do you see Jinder winning the belt in the future, given this new potential that he's gotten after his last challenge? I mean, do you think there's story potential in them running this, or do you think it was just sort of one trick pony and it's done and you want it to be over with?
I don't see Gender winning it right off.
Mm,
Um, I mean, they could build Gender to the point of winning it, but I don't see them giving it to him right off right now
Mm.
with him just coming back. But you never know. Like I say, since Triple H has been in charge, it's a little more difficult to say what they're going to do than when Vince was calling the shots.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though, is that we're in a weird spot where H has options. I just think that he has to pick one, so to speak. Because I feel like he has a lot of options if Rollins really is injured. I mean, you could run the whole thing where maybe Nakamura gets his momentum back ever since he ran the feud where he was injuring him and targeting his lower back. Maybe you get the feel good win to Sami Zayn. Maybe you build it up over a story like Jinder Mahal. Like I personally think they could do a tournament, and if they really sat down and like boiled it. But that's me being optimistic. If I'm being honest,
But not to break the randomizer, of course, but
that's okay.
another question that I threw in there
Hmm.
tonight that actually kind of goes along with this while we're talking about Drew
Hmm.
is, of course, last night on Raw, you saw the exchange between Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes.
Hmm.
Um, so, do you think the path to Cody finishing his story actually goes through Drew?
I'll be honest, I don't know that I want it to. If you're asking, do I want Cody to beat him for the World Heavyweight Championship, or is that preventing him from getting to it? Is that what you mean? Just to clarify.
Well, Cody's just always talking about finishing his story. And last night, Drew was talking about, Cody could finish his story, but not before Drew got to finish the story. So, does his story go through it? Does he, before he can finish his story, does he have to face Drew?
I mean, I want him to because I want to see that match. If that answers the question, good. Especially because it's weird to think that like there's a lot more history in that match than I think people give credit for. Because funnily enough, look through the records, they were tag team champions at one point, or at least they were tag team at one point. So I mean, the feud is definitely there in terms of like there are definitely dudes who were pegged as something for the WWE. They left and proved that you can do something outside of the WWE, and then came back and showed everybody. But yeah, I mean, if I'm going to answer the question to get to the point, yes, I do think he has to go through Drew, so to speak, just because. I mean, we do have a little bit of time before we got to get to Mania. Like, I know Royal Rumble is there, but on the off chance Cody doesn't win it, because my booking personally, I feel like they're going to have Cody be number one and then have him go the distance this year because it's going to be that much more impossible that it's like he's number one and he's following, a win that he had last year. But it would make it that much sweeter because, I want Cody to finish the story. I'm probably the only dude still on the Cody train right now ever since, we've had all this new people showing up in the WWE. But, I mean, what do you think? What do you think, Haas? I mean, is Cody finishing the story? Does he have to go through Drew?
I, at this point, I kind of think with their history and everything, yeah, I can see his story going through Drew. I really
Mm,
can. And I think if you made a good program between Cody and Drew, I think that would help elevate Drew back to where he needs to be as well.
mm,
You
mm.
know,
You
so
think if anybody can get a main event status or really really shove Drew to show everybody that shine that he has, Cody would be the one to do it.
I I don't know that it would be a main event match, but it would definitely be towards the top of the card, I believe, for a Drew and Cody match. It's something I think a lot of people would be interested in seeing. I think two of them could put on one hell of a match together, really, and I'd love to see it. I mean, and with the history of them being tag team and everything in the past, and yeah, it would be one hell of a match.
It's insane to think that they never locked horns because it's like I'm not. I mean, I understand that they weren't really in the same place at the same time most of the time, but it's crazy to think because they were both like the indie dudes for a little bit. Like it was like I'm trying to think. Pretty sure Drew was an IPW. He was in Impact for a while. I know that much. And then it was like Cody went to Ring of Honor. He went to Japan. He went to WCPW. And it's like, oh, no, that's the big one. I was going to mention that. Both of them were in WCPW at one point, and you'd think they never squared up, or at least I don't remember if they ever squared up. So I think that's really the reason I want this match to happen, is because somehow we've never gotten it. And then it's like, now we get the best version of Drew McIntyre versus the best version of Cody Rhodes, Assad, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, buddy. It's always good to see you. Luchador from the FWWC. Jared! Oh my God, my number one fan. I swear, this dude, he hears I'm on the show and he never misses it.
Well, I don't think he misses it either way, but
I know. I mean, look.
But he is your biggest fan. I'll give him that.
And I'm lucky to have him. So did you want to throw it back to the randomizer so we could jump to another question?
Yeah, Susie thinks Drew and Cody could be match of the year, and I think they could be.
I definitely think
if the two of them lock up. So I would love to see it. So let's go ahead and see what the randomizer, if I didn't break it, by skipping it, but let's see what it can.
If you do, just roll a dice. Ooh, alrighty. I like this one.
So there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about with TNA wrestling. They've had a lot going on this past weekend.
I believe it was Hard to Kill, their most recent pay-per-view. I think they did record numbers that they haven't seen since, I want to say, they've been established. So is the question up? I'm sorry. I don't want to talk over you actually reading the question.
So
there we go.
With TNA unveiling some changes at Hard to Kill, does this make you more vested in their product?
Did you want to take the lead on this one, or should I?
Well, some people may not have been following it, so we of course have some of the changes. They brought out some new championships.
I can't tell you what these belts do for me, Haas. I love it, and I like the colors.
They are some nice looking championships. Yeah. And of course, you had Dolph Ziggler, now Nick
Nemes?
Yeah, something like that.
I think I'm trying to remember.
He's made he's
Nemeth.
Come in.
Nemeth. There we go.
And they now have a new
Moose,
new world champion, Moose, who actually is going to be at WDWA at their next show, facing the Wrestle Talk family's DeMarcus Kane. So that should be an awesome match.
Man, we got so much connections in here, bro. It's crazy.
So, honestly, that it just seeing all these changes, and they've managed to get their name in everybody's mouth here this weekend. So that makes me more vested. And personally, I just love to see anything that's good for wrestling. And I truly believe that, what they're doing is good for wrestling. So I'm looking forward to seeing if they can keep the momentum going.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more, Haas. I mean, as somebody like me who used to keep up with Impact and seeing all the names that come in and come out, and especially the history half of it and how they got established, and unfortunately how some people managed to drop the ball not once but twice in terms of the company, to see something as, I want to say trailblazing as TNA sort of descend and kind of crash and hit the ground and basically hit rock bottom and then work its way back up to the standard that we expected of it. It's a good redemption story, honestly, and I can't wait to see it. I think the change is not only good, I think it's necessary. I think TNA needed to change in the ways that it did to get everybody's attention. I know everyone misses the 6-sided ring, but the logo's back. We're not calling it, Impact anymore. It's TNA, we always knew it was. We got the new belts, the red branding back together. We got a new champion to, hit the ground running. And Lord knows they got all the talent going in. And I actually read an article recently that I think they're trying to do a collaboration with AAA coming up. And I cannot tell you what that does for me as a wrestling fan, especially because I'm actually trying to watch Hard to Kill recently. I mean, I'm looking into it. I'm trying to watch all the wrestling at once. Yeah, if you can imagine. But they got a
I
lot
know
of
the feeling.
right. But I
I
think
have so much wrestling on my DVR, and I just can't get to it every week
we're,
because there's just too much of it there.
we're drowning
Yeah.
in
Uh,
it.
but uh, but Assad says he's been invested since 2005, and so he's liking it, and Jared says he's 100% more invested in the product. He's been following TNA for a long time, but something switched at Hard to Kill and brought his eyes from 10 to a 20. And he also says he was really hoping Elias would show up, but
Don't roll it out. I'm just saying he's still out there. You never know. But and they got a lot of talent to work with. They say Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and Dixie Carter are almost. You kidding me? It's like a combination of when Vince Russo showed up, then they made WCW 2.0, and they tried. You can make a whole documentary about this, and this is why I'm glad that the company is still alive, so we can talk about it, because now they're thriving, and we can be like, thank God they didn't die, because there's a lot of good wrestling that happens there. And to see them hit these heights now, I mean, they have the talent. I mean, they got Kushida, they got Moose, they got the Motor City Machine Guns just tearing it up. I mean, I don't know if you guys care about her. I think Trinity's doing fantastic. I think she's perfect for this kind of setting. I think more people are caring about the Impact Knockouts Championship than they would ever. I mean, I'm honestly put in the mindset of when Gail Kim jumped ship, where it's like, is she big fish, little pond? Yeah, but she's a grouper. You know what I mean? She deserves that status because she deserves to be there. Will be a future episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Don't say that. It's gonna be bad, bro. Well, actually, I mean, if you want to get technical, they could do a Dark Side of what was it, Victory Road 2005? What was it? What's his name? Jeff Hardy. You remember when he showed up to the
yeah.
ring? Oh Lord. Oh man, they could do an episode about that if they really wanted to.
But yeah, I like the changes so far. I think that it's really a good thing for wrestling. And honestly, you put in another question that goes right along with all this, because there's actually we're heavy on TNA topics tonight.
What?
And
Just goes to show
so
how they're doing.
after the success of Hard to Kill, what is the next step for TNA going into 2024? So how do you think they keep that momentum going?
I think they continue to do what they've been doing right now, because they've just been putting on great products. They show us what we want to see, but they also like to throw a curveball. The fact that Nick Nemeth showed up, I mean, like, I know he showed up in Japan, but it's nice to see him sort of catch us off guard like that. And I think that's what they need to do, is stick Victory Road 2011. That's what it was. But thank you, Assad. But just to say, I think they just need to continue doing what it is that made us like TNA in the first place. And I mean, just giving us and highlighting, independent wrestlers or wrestlers that we're familiar with that need a better platform to sort of shine in the ways that they can, where they're not getting lost in the shuffle in places like AEW or WWE, or even just like not even fitting the mold as far as like, going to AAA, or like, I don't even know, like Ring of Honor, so to speak, or, Control Your Narrative, or NWA, of what you're doing. Just giving the wrestling that we expect, your X division being what it is, about no limits, your world title scene being filled with the people that are your most popular. I mean, you can't tell me Moose isn't over. I mean, if anything, this is like the most deserved for this dude, because I know he won it a while back, but it wasn't like not official. It was a whole thing. So I think this is good. But what do you think they need to do stepping in? I mean, do you think they should like continue up with the pay-per-views? Do you think they should just kind of shoot for good TV and then see if enough people will buy the product? Or you think they should just put all their eggs in one basket and just go for it?
Yeah, I think just like you said, I mean, they just keep doing in what the way they're doing it now, and just keep bringing in the guys that you know just like Dolph Ziggler. People want to see him. People do follow him, and a lot of people are very happy to see him over there, and that's going to bring more eyes to the product. So just keep bringing people like that over. That's going to bring eyes to the product, but at the same time, keep pushing the people that you've already got there that are currently carrying the product. Don't forget about them. And I think if they can manage to do that on an even keel, it's gonna thrive, and you might even see them outdo AEW.
I definitely think that's something. I'm glad you brought that up because two things. For me, I'm glad you mentioned the roster because it is very easy for a company to get a new prospect or something to be like, ooh, this WWE guy just left. Let's get him in here, and he's got all this momentum. I do think it's good that they want to add them to sort of get the eyes on their product, but I do think rewarding the people who were there to carry TNA to what it is now deserve the spot that they get. And I'm glad that you said that because that's what I want out of them too, is that it's like, do I want to see the WWE guys or, anybody else that joins them from another company get their time in the shine to show that they are for TNA and they are like, representing the brand? Yes. But I also want to make sure that we're not getting an NXT situation where, the people who were the flag bearers carrying the shit are getting overlooked because, well, this guy worked in another company, you know? And, Jared adding, I believe they should start traveling more in the US. I think that could definitely help them in some aspects because they operate actually here in Florida. I think they're having a matchup in Orlando or Central Florida, but I'm gonna have to check it out. Trust me. Uh, Got to start getting into the shows. I mean, that's how it goes. Kansas City needs a PLE stat. Good to have Night Owl in the comment section here.
Yeah,
But
shout out to the Night Owl. Thank you for joining us, even though you're not here hosting, you're still checking us out, and
he's got to
so
make
we're
sure the
glad to
set's
have
not
you.
on fire.
Yeah, make sure we're not burning down the studio or nothing.
There you go. We're not running our guests off with arguments about who's the better wrestler. But you ready to move on to the next question, Haas?
Let's see here.
Alrighty.
I think we got a couple more questions that revolve around TNA,
We're
but
still on topic. I'm good with it.
we were talking about. Actually, let me go ahead and where's that? Let me go ahead and hit that randomizer. I hate to skip it because you know how finicky that thing could be. We might break it if we skip it too much. So
Yeah, I know what you mean.
see, there it goes again.
Oh, all right. I know we have opinions on this.
But see, this is not totally going to go out of the TNA because the question that we're going to use on this one is actually whose reveal do you feel had the bigger impact? Do you feel Jack Perry impacting on debuting on New Japan, or Nick Nemeth on TNA?
This is such a loaded question. I mean, because you mind if I take the lead on this, Hoss, real quick?
Go right ahead.
Both reveals have their upsides, right? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I know there's not a whole lot of people that are fans of Jack Perry at this moment, but you can't deny that if anybody was going to turn controversy, if you're going to turn a work into a shoot, or a shoot into a work, he made it work the best. Truly. It was most surprising, I would say, but the most fitting was Nemeth, if that makes sense. That it's that one is more surprising versus one is more appreciated. So I guess it's sort of pick your poison in that sense. I mean, I want to see what comes out of Jack Perry showing up in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But if I can be honest, I'm a lot happier with Nick Nemeth in TNA because it feels like, chocolate and peanut butter. It's like it fits. We knew he left WWE. I know he's in New Japan, but it's also like he shows up in TNA and we're like, all right, he's ready to play ball. Who's he going to lock up with first? Like, let's see what this dude does when he's not in the WWE machine versus it. But to throw it to you, I mean, who do you I feel like I know your answer already, but who do you think had a bigger impact on us? Oh, I think you're muted. Or that I can't hear you. Oh,
Yeah, it was me.
okay, there we go.
Yeah, but in a way, it's kind of like you said. They each had their impact in their own ways. But it seems to me I've heard more talk about Dolph and his reveal than I really did Jack Perry. And I think there's more people following, following Nick now at the moment. Um, so I tend to think that one may have had more of an impact, and is going to bring more eyes to TNA.
I can understand that. Now I have to ask you, who do you think, or I guess where do you see these guys going forward? I mean, what would you like to see out of them? Or I guess in Jack Perry's case, what do you think he needs to do to keep that momentum going, so to speak? Or even in Nick Nemet's case, I mean, what do you think they have to do? Because now that they're out there, how do they keep that momentum going so that they don't become stale that way? Because anybody can make a debut, but then they can go out like a wet fart. So I mean, what would you like to see out of them versus, I mean, what do you expect?
Shout out to Bernie Deal, the wrestling PhD from WDWA, and he thinks it's all about the follow up goes with Perry, and that's true as a matter of fact. You know, it, and that's exactly what you were really just asking about is how do you follow it up? And I'm to be honest, I haven't watched a lot of New Japan.
You're missing out.
So I'm not 100% how they can follow up with Jack Perry because I'm not familiar enough with the players there. But hopefully they can elevate him to another level. I mean, honestly, I don't think he was totally getting to another level in AEW. I mean, he wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he was bad by any means,
Hmm.
but I just don't think he was really getting to another level in AEW. So
You think
hopefully,
he was stagnating, so to speak?
yeah, basically. So
Hmm. I mean, to answer your question, as far as Jack Perry ripped up an AEW contract, he doesn't need the momentum. I mean, I guess, but let's be real here. He's only one guy. And I mean, I like Jack Perry as much as the next guy, but, he is. Yeah, I mean, it's like I was saying. I mean, you can have all the momentum going into the world for your debut, but if you don't do anything with it or if you don't accomplish anything with it, it's not even about doing anything. It's about how he does it, so to speak. So the thing is, I definitely see where he's going for his next feud. I mean, he attacked Shota Umino, so we can assume that he's probably going to be feuding with him going forward. I think what they need to do, just to speak on behalf of Jack Perry, because I think Nick Nemeth knows what he's doing. I think all it is that once we see him in the ring, that's going to dictate how we feel about him after leaving WWE. And it's not really a question of if he can succeed versus when he succeeds. But for Jack, I think the real way to get something out of this is to sort of find his voice in New Japan, because I think he has the potential to do it. They have lots of different there's potential for him joining a faction. I mean, I know there's House of Torture, so I think that would kind of tie into the whole situation he had with the Real Glass. Like if you were going to turn that into something, you might as well. Um you could either, I mean, if you want him, you could just probably stick him with Bullet Club if you wanted to really go for the War Dogs vibe, because he needs, David Finlay needs killers, and it's like you can't get much better than, Jack Perry showing up on TV, getting all bloodied up on a cage match in AEW. But I think it really boils down to the kind of wrestling matches he's going to have. And I mean, if I was going to stick him somewhere as far as New Japan is concerned, I think he has potential in the juniors division. I mean, that's not really a bad thing in NJPW. They treat juniors like a big deal over there. So it's like either he could potentially fight for the KOPW championship because that's more of their gimmick title. Like they just had it was a whiskey bottle on a pole match. I can't make this shit up. And, tie it back into the fact that maybe he does like gimmick matches, or maybe he thrives better with them, or we just get some genuinely good wrestling from Jack Perry as a result of either sticking him in a tag team, maybe in a trios. I feel like he has options in Japan, but I'm waiting to see what happens. It's like, do I want to see him succeed? Absolutely. I would never want anybody to fail in wrestling, especially if I liked them at some point. But I guess just to tie it back into the question, I think Nemeth had the better result in terms of the impact that they made. But uh what did you want to tie this into the other one we had regarding this, or did you just want to throw it into the next question?
Well, we can tie it in to the question that you submitted, which was Jack Perry joins New Japan. Will he be missed or good riddance?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that he'll be missed. I don't know that it's good riddance. I just think that he's gotten so much issues going now that it's just like maybe he just all he needs to do is leave and go to Japan for a couple months before the audience is ready. Maybe the audience has to miss him first before he actually comes back, because I know there were a lot of people who wanted him to be the devil, in AEW, and I don't know that that would have, you know, delivered as much as everybody thought it would be, because everybody thinks they know the answer to wrestling and what makes a better reveal than the actual product we're going to get until we actually get it and we're like, oh, that was really stupid. But I mean, are you going to miss him, or are you just kind of be done with your hands with him because you're done hearing his name in articles?
Nah, I mean it's just like you said, and I was thinking it myself when you said it, and that is, you know, it's not necessarily good riddance to him, but I don't see him being missed that much either. So I do think a lot of people were surprised that he jumped ship from AEW. Um, Although I mean he hasn't been seen, so I don't know why it was such a big surprise. But uh, a lot of people were, and like you say, a lot of people wanted him to be the one in the devil mask, and so there are people who I'm sure will miss him at
There are Jack
AEW.
Perry fans, yeah.
Exactly, but I don't necessarily see it being a big loss for AEW. But I don't see it being a good riddance either.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, I mean, sorry, I'm getting tongue tied here. It's just we it leaves more to be desired. But as somebody who's seen a lot of wrestlers who sort of find themselves in Japan, I'm definitely curious to see what we get out of it, because I mean, I think he has potential. I was really behind him for a really long time. You can look back on some of the episodes that we did when he had that cage match with Luchasaurus. I genuinely liked him as a wrestler, and that's why it bothers me so hard to see him like this, because I don't want to know that he's an asshole behind the scenes and he's difficult to work with. This is wrestling. You got to be like, I understand you can't be friends with everybody in wrestling, but you still got to be professional. And I think he kind of had his moment of unprofessionalism, and in a business like this, that's a career killer. You know what I mean? It's like we might not see him in AEW for a really long time. I'm assuming it's a work, but if it's not, like, yeah, I hope that they'll sign him up for NXT if he wants to work in North America again. Like, you know what I mean? Or I mean, he could come back
There's
to TNA.
yeah, I mean, he was, unless I'm mistaken, he was never actually fired from AEW. He was just suspended indefinitely, I believe. So he wasn't necessarily fired. Um, so he just kind of jumped ship, I guess, on his own. If you look at it, that they didn't fire him, but
But
I
they weren't gonna let him wrestle again. They're like, he ain't coming back.
but I mean, they did actually, fire Phil. So
Yeah. I mean, whatever remains to be seen, right? I mean, anyways, I wanted to ask, not to throw it out there, but do you know if we're ready for the next segment, or are we still riding high spots out for a little bit?
well, Dewan is not backstage yet, and I sent him a message he hasn't answered, so I don't know if he's coming on. And we're not ready for snippets of truth yet. It doesn't look like. So let's go ahead and hit another question here, and hopefully within the next 10 minutes, Big Daddy P will pop in for snippets.
If not, we
'Cause
can
he
just
definitely told me he would be here. So
mm. And Big Daddy P's word is his word.
all right. Let me see if I can get this randomizer fired up one more time here.
Ooh, all right, big pay-per-view number 4. I hope you don't mind me talking over the photos.
No, you're fine. Not a problem at all. So as you say, we got the big pay-per-view coming up, and with Royal Rumble around the corner, who is your pick to win the Rumble match?
You want to start us off, Haas? Because I'm actually curious. Because I feel like this year is going to be tricky. We got a lot of names here.
There are a lot of names who have already declared. Um, so um, there's a lot of good ones that you'd like to see win out of that one. But then, also there's always those surprise entrances that, were never declared and you don't know they're there until last minute. I mean, if you want to go by the dirt sheets and stuff, which personally I think this one's just a work, but you know, a lot of people say MJF could be in the Rumble. I don't believe it. I think he's still with AEW, and I think he's going to go back to AEW. But some people do think that. So it's kind of hard to call a winner on that with not knowing who all is truly going to be there. But I could see them letting Cody win it again.
Would you want to?
And
I guess that's my question. Is would you? Let me list off some of the names here, and then I mean on a scale of like 1 to 10, or maybe not that, but like on a scale of yes, no, or meh. So Cody Rhodes. I mean, how would you feel if he won the Royal Rumble this year?
yeah, I could see him winning it, and I wouldn't have an issue with it.
Nice, nice. What about well, I guess I was about to say Seth Rollins. What about LA Knight? I mean, if you could throw it out there just to give him his chance, or do you think his moment's passed, so to speak?
Is he actually in the Rumble?
I don't. Oh, no, that's right. He's in the match
I was going to say he's in that
Roman.
triple threat match, so
I
I didn't think
forgot.
he was going to be in the Rumble.
What are some? Well, I guess I think I already know your answer. If I suggest, okay, we'll
Well,
go off of what Susie says. Do you think The Rock has potential to win the Royal Rumble?
I really don't think he's going to enter the Rumble, but hey, it could very well be The Rock enters the Rumble, The Rock wins the Rumble, and The Rock goes to Mania, and because that's something that's been talked about is a match between The Rock and uh wow, my mind just went completely blank. I don't even.
Roman.
Yes, thank you. But yeah, there's the match between The Rock and Roman has been talked about time and time again. So, you know, I could see where a match like that would be interesting, but I wouldn't want it to be for the title because honestly, I don't think they would hang the title back on The Rock especially if it's a one-off match.
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I don't think The Rock needs. Welcome to the show, Owen. I don't think The Rock needs a Royal Rumble win. I'm only suggesting it because we know he's there, and I mean the Royal Rumble is all about surprises. But I feel like he's reached that sort of that like critical mass point in his career where it's like he can just show up and be like, "Bitch, give me a title shot." Like it's just, or even like you said, it doesn't even have to be for the title. I think it's more about who's the head of the table, like who truly is that dude when it comes to the
Exactly.
Anoa'i family. Yeah. Now, to
And
build off of what Owen
and shout
said,
out to you, Owen, but I used to like you.
you got on his bad side, Owen. I mean, I figure I already know your answer with that. I mean, you don't want to see CM Punk win the Royal Rumble, do you?
No. I could see them, with the fact that Punk does have a lot of fans behind him. I'm not gonna discredit that fact. He does. But so I could see them from that aspect going, oh yeah, he's got all these fans. They'd love to see him win it. They'd love to see him get the title shot. And great, if that's what they want to do, so be it. But honestly, I think he really needs to be here for a while. He needs to really prove that he's not going to let his attitude get the best of him
Mm-hmm.
before they go giving him title shots and hanging titles on him or anything of that nature.
I definitely think that him being in the Rumble is necessary. I definitely think he should be in the
Oh,
match.
yes.
And somebody suggested somewhere that they're like, this is just some fan booking out there, but I'm also like, I mean, I would probably be okay with this. They suggested if they pulled what was it, Lex Luger and a Bret Hart with him and Cody, where it's like they both fall and then they both get their matches at Mania for the title, which I'm like, is that a little out there? Maybe, but that's a good way to give them both their match and tell everybody to shut up. But I also think that's going to be a lot. And I agree with you. I think while I do want Punk to get that opportunity, I do think it's a little dangerously close to him being here on the roster too fresh to just give him what he wants. Maybe, well, I mean, maybe not give him what he wants, but give the fans that are behind Punk everything all at once. And the only reason I suggested him being in the Rumble would be good was because can you imagine the reaction if somebody gets rid of CM Punk? Because we know his fans are vocal. They're very vocal. So imagine being the guy that throws CM Punk out of the Rumble. So all these people speculating, being like, yeah, it's going to be Punk. Got to will the World Heavyweight Championship. It'd be stupid if they didn't. And then just yeet right out the Rumble. Instant heat. Just saying. I'm throwing that out there because I don't want to set my expectations too high thinking that he'll win the whole thing. But to Aaron Wallace here, I've heard rumors that Ken Shamrock is going to be a surprise entrant. I mean, I'm okay with a surprise entrant. That'd be dope. I'd be cool to see Ken Shamrock come back. I mean, you suggest that MJF might come in. I mean, do you think there's any potential? Oh God. I just thought about this. I can't imagine how badly I would mark out if Kazuchika Okada showed up for the Royal Rumble. I think your mic's muted though, Haas. But
No, I'm good.
there we. Oh, okay, I was just making sure I couldn't hear you. But I completely forgot. There's the Women's Royal Rumble. Who do you see winning that potentially? I mean, we can't forget about the women's, right? And they got plenty of viable ones. We still got Rhea Ripley and who's Raw Women's Champion right now? Cena return potentially.
Yeah, he could. But yeah, it's
Io, that's
and the
right. Io
women's,
Sky.
yeah, and the women's Rumble. There's, obviously everybody's going. They think Flair's going to win it. They think Becky's
Please,
going to win it.
please not
And
Flair.
everybody is going with the big names, obviously.
Mhm.
But I tend to think that at this point they're probably going to give it to a smaller name, just to try to
Establish someone.
elevate somebody who is fresher on the roster, maybe not necessarily brand new on the roster, but at least fresher than them, since they've already held it before. Everybody knows who they are. Everybody is already behind them. So it would be best to elevate somebody who not as many people are behind, and Cinderella story basically.
I think there is more potential in giving the Royal Rumble to a fresher name, because I feel like the men's Royal Rumble, we got a little too many major players that are like, no, they need the Rumble win for Mania, and there's like no other option. You know what I mean? But for the women's, especially because we have both of these titles, and I feel like they have their programs being established, but there's more potential in giving a name that hasn't, especially because, like you said, I mean, they're mentioning Becky and Charlotte, but and I mean, I know I said I wanted Cody to win a second time, but I don't know that somebody like Charlotte needs a second Royal Rumble win, especially because I'll be honest, I don't want to see her in another main event or challenging at Mania. I'd much be happier. Me personally, I would like Shotzi Blackheart, but that's just me being nice, because I think she's fantastic. And I think even if she doesn't win the title, I think she should have an opportunity for the belt. And if anything, I feel like Becky is a little too obvious, because she had her promo that she did with Rhea recently, where she's like, "I have to beat you, to win the belt." And I'm like, I think it'd be good to establish her, maybe make her the Iron Woman, make her the one that goes throughout the entire match, but just cut it short, because I'd much rather have Becky do an Iron Woman performance and win the Elimination Chamber instead. And like you said, give it a Cinderella story to somebody who really needs it, Charlotte isn't winning any Rumbles for 9 months with a knee injury suffered that much. Thank God. Thank God. Oh, that's awful.
Not thank goodness she's hurt, mind
No,
you.
no. I just that's awful to say. I shouldn't say that. I don't like her that much, but I'm not enough to wish pain upon her. But
Yeah, because that one didn't sound right. It sounded like you were thanking the fact she was hurt.
right. Um I mean, what are some? I'm trying to think of any other. I mean, women on the women's roster right now. I mean, we got a couple of names. I mean, Susie Haas mentioned Alexa Bliss making her return. I mean, that would definitely be a good way to get her back in the word of mouth.
Let's
Bronson
see.
Reed winning the Rumble. I mean, I feel like it's still too early for Bronson. I feel like if anything, he needs to be winning the U.S. title first or something, or at least fighting Gunther once.
Well, or Gunther's announced he's going to be in the Rumble, so
I mean,
he
yeah,
could he could
but like
potentially win it. And
he could, but let's be real here. He's got the IC belt. That's like a death sentence. That's that's the rule. You get the IC belt, and I don't think they'd give it to Jade Cargill though. You got the IC belt in the Royal Rumble, you ain't getting it. You remember when Dean Ambrose had it in 2015? He didn't win. That was it. Is you can't have a belt and win the Rumble. It ain't happening. But Jade Cargill, I don't know that she's ready. I mean, it's like I know she's training, and I hope she gets her debut eventually. But to put all of that on Jade Cargill, and we're not even sure she's able to wrestle the style they want for Mania, I
yeah,
don't.
I don't know. I feel bad for Jade because there was all this publicity over her coming over and everything, and they showed her on Raw, they showed her on SmackDown, they showed her on NXT, and they were making this big deal over her coming, and then gone. Where's she been ever since? And
Mm-hmm.
I
It's like
know
Eva
I know
Marie,
Triple H has said, when she's ready, we'll debut her, but well, why did you hype it if you're not ready to debut her? People are kind of forgetting about her now because of the fact that they haven't done anything with her. So
now, can I suggest something? Do you think she might have a potential spot in the Rumble, at least to keep her relevant, or do you think maybe now is not the time to do it? Maybe it's just let people kind of forget her, and then let her come back when we know for sure she's done and like, you know what I mean? Like she's cooked, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I could see her possibly debuting at the Rumble, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to fit that well to me for her to be debuting at the Rumble. Um, it's just with the way they've kind of just set her to the back, and people have kind of forgotten that she's even there. For her to run out at the Rumble, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, she's here."
Yeah, and then that's the thing too is that you potentially run the risk of wasting her re-debut. Because it's like, okay, she shows up in the Rumble, then what? She's got not much else to do, right? That's I mean, that's what I'm saying though, Owen, is that it's like she shows up and doesn't win, and then it's like, okay, well then what does she do? Like, yeah, Rumble could probably cover her up in terms of, like what she's doing, but yeah, I mean, she shows up in the Rumble, and then it's like, what? Do we see her on Raw, or was it just like, okay, we just threw her out there to remind everybody she exists, get her back in the training room, let's iron this shit out,
Yeah,
Um,
and Bernie thinks she could be, a debut the night after Mania, and that would
I
make
think that'd
sense.
be better. I think that because the Monday after Raw, or I mean after Mania, is the biggest one. So it's like if you were gonna re-debut her, that'd probably be the best time. Plus, it gives her more time to practice. Because we still got a long way before Mania. No Chelsea Green. What do you got against Chelsea Green? Why are you hating?
And there's actually a prediction with the men's Rumble
Mm.
that uh that Cody's going to get thrown out by CM Punk, and that would make CM Punk people turn against him, so that he would be a heel.
That's the thing is too. Punk is so much better when he's a heel. Like, and if anybody could stick the landing off of something that, like, especially because I'm a Cody guy. So if he just crushed my heart right in front of me, throwing Cody out of the Rumble right at the end, like maybe it's Final Four or something like that, or maybe Cody throws Gunther out or something, and it's like, oh shit, Cody beat Goliath, and then right at the end, just slam dunks him right out of the ring. All of the fans are just gonna they're gonna shit on that pay-per-view after that.
Owen
But
said he had an ex-girlfriend named Chelsea Green.
I think that's the Chelsea Green that Susie's talking about.
But yeah, well, it doesn't look like either of the other two are backstage for their segments. So I guess something must have happened, because normally Big Daddy P, if he says he's going to be here, he's going to be here. But yeah, something must have come up, and that's fine. We understand when things come up.
Live
And
shows, it happens.
same with Dewan.
Hmm.
So let's go ahead and we'll hit our sponsors here one more time before we get into it. You want to go ahead and read them off for us this time?
I would love to. So, Wrestle Talk Podcast would like to thank all of our great sponsors, including Royal Mills Transportation, that's head by CEO Dewan Mills, Nobleman's Barber Lounge, headed at Kansas City, Missouri, Kincaid Arcade at Oak Park Mall, Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs, that's where you can get your Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler, and the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group.
All right. Well, we've talked a lot of good wrestling spots, and it's been a good discussion, and I've enjoyed the input from the fans on it. It's been great hearing from them. So, but our guest has been sitting backstage the whole time listening to us talk here. So, what do you say we go ahead and get into our feature interview here?
I say let's do it.
All right. Just check one more thing here real quick. Okay. All right. Yep. Let's go ahead and get in with our feature interview. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please welcome to the Wrestle Talk podcast, a gentleman who started wrestling back in 2018. He is a former Mid-Atlantic champion and a former light heavyweight champion and World Domination Wrestling Alliance. And the one and only Kaylin Patrick.
How's it going?
Woo! Welcome to the show, Kaylin.
Glad to be here.
Have you.
Thank you. Can y'all hear me fine?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
All right, great.
So, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you tonight, and glad you could join us. So, what's one thing that everybody should know about Kaylin Patrick? And it doesn't necessarily have to be wrestling related, or it can be about you personally or about Kaylin Patrick, either one. So, just one thing everybody should know.
I'm a huge nerd. 100% huge nerd. And not just like it's not just one nerddom, it's multiple nerddoms. Huge video game nerd, huge music nerd. I'll go into hours just talking about music. If you bring up anything from the 90s, I'm like, hey, heard you guys were talking music. It's like that, and I will talk for hours. Give me a subject that I like or I'm passionate about, and I will keep going until someone tells me to shut up.
All right. So let me go ahead and throw it over to you there, Gabe, because Gabe, he's wanted to get into the wrestling business himself. And so I know he may have some questions about training or something, and I get to see you more often than he does, obviously. So, let me throw it over to him. So, Gabe, you want to ask a few questions?
Absolutely. But Kaylin, I just have to say it's a pleasure to meet you. I love any opportunity I have to be able to speak to independent wrestlers. I actually have a couple of notes here. I just want to be able to ask you some questions.
Awesome.
I had an opportunity to watch some of your matches, and I just got to say you took those chops from a Latin Tornado like a champ.
Oh God, he chopped me
beet red.
Oh yeah, no, I bruise very easy. Anyone chops me hard, but Latin Tornado's chops, they are something else. And he has been chopping me since training. Like, I was the test dummy whenever we did chops.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually had this written down. So, I mean, not just to mention Latin Tornado, I mean, we also have Mike Noland, I have Robbie Page, Professor Jacob Edwards. So I wanted to ask you, which of your trainers do you think had the biggest influence on your wrestling?
I'd say it would be a tie between Latin Tornado and the Professor. Jacob started training us a lot more before WDWA moved out of its previous location. So he was always, leading the training. He was always there. We were going over everything. He would teach us about psychology in the ring, have us practice moves, asks, hey, what do you want to try out? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go with your things? But LT, just drilling in those fundamentals from the beginning. The most important thing, 100% would be the fundamentals. If you can't lock up, you're not going to do great. You got to be able to have a good lockup, and LT drilled that into us hard.
That's good, though. I mean, so it was more of a, breaking down wrestling to what its essential parts are versus experimentation, would you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Having the opportunity
100%.
to try something different? Okay.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Hand on the steering wheel versus hey, just let him drive.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
I gotcha. And then I wanted to add to that, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned under Latin Tornado thus far? What would you say is the big standout one that's kind of ingrained its way into your head, so to speak?
It's honestly a tie between two, which is one of the most important things I had to learn in the beginning, which was keep your mouth shut and your ears open.
There.
If the guy who is training you is talking and he tells you did something, don't give him an excuse. Just take what he said, remember it, and work on it. don't be like, oh, well, I did that because of this reason. They're not telling you what they just told you because they want to hear why you did what you did. They just want you to listen to what they said and follow their instructions. So like that's yes, 100%. If you're being trained by someone, especially if they have a ton of experience like Latin Tornado, or someone with 10 plus experience like Jacob, or just anyone for that fact. Keikoa, I was just at a recent training seminar with him. It was like the third or fourth one I've been with him. If he's talking, mouth shut, ears open, and just listen and remember what he says and do it.
And then the other lesson?
Pay your dues. Pay your dues. Like I'm still paying my dues, and I don't even see it as paying my dues. I see it as doing something I should want to do. Like if you're going to a show, if you're booked for a show and you have the time, if you have the wherewithal, go to the show, help set up the show, help put together the ring, help set up tables, help set up chairs. Like be the guy who's helpful for everyone, which is what I want to do it. Like I actually enjoy putting together and taking apart wrestling rings because there's so many different wrestling rings. Nobody really uses the same wrestling ring. A 20-foot ring is different from a 16-foot ring. So like if one of the most important things to do is pay your dues, keep paying your dues. Like 5 years, I'm still going to the shows. I'm still helping putting the ring together. I'm still helping setting up chairs. If the guys running it need help with something, like, hey, what do you need me to do? I'll do it. Put yourself out there.
I got you. And would you say paying your dues has its own like lesson sort of? I mean, like you just mentioned that, not every ring is made the same. Have you learned, I guess I would say, any other aspects of wrestling through doing that sort of thing? I mean, would you say that's an opportunity for somebody like me to, I guess, take an opportunity to learn something, like what the placement of chairs might mean to something, or like, how a ring should be set up, or how people prefer things, like, the turnbuckles being tightened, or even just getting that opportunity to, just create a good environment for the people in the back, or, the people who make the shows happen. Would you say, is that a...
Oh yeah, no, like the faster you can put together a ring before the doors open, the more opportunities you have of watching people get in that ring and practice. Not only that, but then you can listen to them. You can ask people for advice. Like the sooner a ring gets set up, the sooner everyone can start like getting in there, practicing. You learn a lot of knowledge from other people. Like you should if you ever have a question for a wrestler and they're not busy, ask them. Most of the time, you'll definitely get an answer from them. They'll give you a genuine answer. Like if you want some advice, especially on getting into the business, asking other independent wrestlers who are already in the business is one of the best ways. Because like, hey, this is what you need to do. Like, do you want to get in the ring? Do you want to help be, a ref? Do you want to be a manager? Like you'll get a lot of advice from a lot of people. And the sooner you can get all that stuff set up, the sooner you can start asking those questions and getting to know those people. Not only that, but just getting to know the people in general, even behind the character, getting them to know them as a person is great. I've made a lot of friends in the locker room just as people. There's a ton of people I just love talking to, even if it's not about wrestling, just, seeing how they're doing in their lives and everything. It's a great opportunity to not only just build knowledge, but build friendship.
There we go. It's an opportunity to learn, but also just an opportunity to grow.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I can definitely appreciate that. Sorry, gotta look at my cheat sheet here. But I wanted to ask, what do you think personally, or excuse me, hold up. Okay, so I was going to mention this. You had said you had started around 2018 as far as training went.
Yes.
And then you had mentioned you had trained a lot during COVID. So I was going to ask, how did training during lockdown differ from regular training for you? And what were some of the difficulties you had to face while you were doing that?
Not a lot of people to train with. You can only shadow box so often until you need someone in there to help practice a move. Like during the lockdown, it was mostly like exercising, keeping in shape. Because in my opinion, one of the most important things any wrestler should concentrate on is cardio. If you can't last longer than the Ultimate Warrior, then you really shouldn't wrestle. But like cardio is super important, so I'd have to constantly train on that. But then there was the opportunities where I'd help LT when he changed up rings, helping him basically build it, like repaint it, reset it up, figuring out how to get it working. And then once we did, being able to actually practice in that, even in like the 86, 90 degree heat sometimes, like training during the lockdown was difficult, but it was still doable. I mean, as long as you could still stay in shape and, just practice everything, that's great. But like during the lockdown, it really helped me work on like character and stuff like that, because like when I was training, it was mostly like, all right, here's the moves I need to remember. Here's the things I want to remember in the ring. Here's the stuff I need to remember in the ring. Like, here's the timing I need to work on. Outside of that, you're like, all right, what do I want to do with my character? How do I want to express myself to the people? Like, what do I want them to think about me? So like the training wasn't just physical, it was also mental. Like, watching a lot of wrestling as well, studying matches, studying how people do things to learn the psychology as well. Like wrestling is more than just physical. Like wrestling is super psychological. A good rule of thumb I ever learned was make every move matter. Like, you want every move that you do to mean something. You want it to make sense. You want to have the people realize why you did what you did. Like, if I'm working on a guy's leg, that means I'm probably going to try and put him in a leg submission. If I'm working the guy's head, maybe my finishers involve something with drilling his head into the mat to get that pin. Like, psychology is super important. And during the lockdown, it helped me learn a lot of psychology, because I was, watching a lot of wrestling, working on my character a lot, like the evolution of what my character I want it to do, what I want it to be.
I hear you. So there were downsides, but there were upsides as well, because I'm sorry. The notification.
The watch. Yep.
Yes. Oh my God. Big Mighty Morphin Power Ranger fan for anybody who didn't recognize it. But so there were benefits to, that you didn't have an opportunity to do some of the things you wanted to do, but you had a chance to work on things that maybe you never thought of, but aspects of wrestling that you were like, well, I can't do this, so might as well work on this.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I got you.
You always gotta try and work on something. Wrestling is constantly learning. You'll never know everything when it comes to wrestling. You'll never know everything when it comes to everything.
That's true.
You always gotta learn, and wrestling is always a learning experience.
And it's I forget how the phrase goes. It's if you're not growing, you're stagnant. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I think something like that.
It amounts to the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty. So then John Haas mentioned WDWA light heavyweight champion, WDWA Mid-Atlantic. So I wanted to ask, what do you think you personally need to do to improve in order to get to that World Heavyweight Championship, as far as WDWA, or even just in another company as going forward?
Well, I would love an opportunity at a World Heavyweight Championship. That's for sure. That would be like amazing for me. I think, like I said, I still got a lot of growing to do. I can put on some good matches. At least that's what people have told me. I don't know if I'm up to the caliber of a World Championship match. But doesn't mean that I can't be. Just in general, when it comes to wanting to get to that World Championship title match, I think all around I just need to work on everything. Like, you can never stop growing when it comes to wrestling. So I work on my character more, work on my ring work more, work on promos more, just everything. Like, if I want to be in that World Championship title picture, I got to show people that I can be in that World Championship picture. I got to show them that I can be that face. I can be that guy who doesn't just put in just the bare minimum. I got to show them that I'm going to put in a lot of work to be in that and deserve that spot.
I hear you. So it's more that you believe what you want in what you what you want to get out of wrestling. It's making the fans believe that you are the world champion that you are, so to speak.
It's not just the fans. It's also the guys who own any of the promotions you go to. You got to show them that you're going to put in that work too, to hey, if I get this opportunity, I won't let you down. I'll show you that I'll put in that work to be that guy for you.
I got you. So it not just on a fan promotion, but also from a locker room perspective. That it's like you want
Yes.
to show them that I am the person who will carry this company. That like
Yeah.
you're not going to regret putting this world championship on me.
Exactly.
I got you. And then just to wrap it up here, I actually have one last question here because I would imagine you want to try and work in other companies as going forward. But which wrestling promotion do you hope to see yourself in someday? I mean, I know there's a lot of options. I mean, if you could just
we talking big names or indies?
both, honestly. I mean, if you could see yourself going anywhere, I mean, would we see you in a GCW, an MLW? I mean, would we see you in AAA? Could we see you in I mean, sky's the limit, right? I mean,
Sky's
we
the
could
limit,
see you
yeah.
in Japan. Yeah, I mean, Pro Wrestling Noah. I mean, what would really like click out for you, so to speak?
Indies, when it comes to indies, like there's a few promotions I definitely want to go to for sure. Like I'd love to go work at Elite Pro in the area. I'd always like there's a lot of people there I've worked with in WDWA that I'd like to work with there as well. Like Shane Malice, worked with Cisco plenty of times. Like I really like Shane Malice, amazingly great guy, and I want a one-on-one match with him so bad. Like I want to wrestle Shane Malice one-on-one really, really badly.
Who we got to call?
I'd like,
we got to book that match.
yeah, I'd love it. 100%. I'd love it.
Haas, put in a word to WDWA. Shane Malice versus Kaylin Patrick.
I'd like to go to GCW for sure. I'd like to go to MCW for sure as well. Keikoa has wrestled a lot in MCW. I know a lot of people who have come to WDWA who also go to MCW. I'd love to go there, try that place out. Like when it comes to the indies, I want to get out there more and just wrestle everywhere a lot more. When it comes to like big names, like I'm not a mark for any particular wrestling place. Wrestling's wrestling to me. I love wrestling. I like the flippy dippy stuff, but I also like the down to earth, locking up, did that chain wrestling in. I love both factors. So like New Japan would be amazing to go to 100%. When my friends first introduced me to New Japan Pro Wrestling, I was like, this place is amazing. These guys are awesome. I'd love to be in that sort of like situation. It'd be amazing. AEW would be awesome, even if it was like a dark match, just the opportunity to be in that ring, work with like anyone would want to work for the WWE. Like that's just an obvious answer. Like everyone wants to go to WWE. Anyone who says that they don't want to work for WWE is lying.
Yeah. There are two people in this world. People who want to work in WWE and liars.
And liars.
Yeah. But I got to say, Kaylin, you are a very, very classy individual. And I know you tend to walk out with your megaphone. So I'm sure that the comparison to Jimmy Hart is there. But after seeing you hit a diamond cutter, I'm going to be honest, your style, I get big Diamond Dallas Page vibes from you. Just classic white meat baby face that you can definitely
huge DDP fan. I love DDP at WCW. I thought he was great. I never missed a DDP match in WCW.
I can definitely see it, especially with your attire. I mean, the pants are very tight. They're very retro. I like the elbow pads. I just wanted to, take the opportunity to give you your flowers because I had the opportunity to watch a couple of your matches, and I mean, I'm reaching that point where I like to see, you were saying a little bit more grounded wrestling sort of. I've appreciated stuff that starts to slow down now. I like my wrestling to be a little bit more paced. So, to have somebody like you with that mentality of, you're close to like a Bruce Lee saying that I like, which is that you're water when it comes to wrestling.
Yes.
You want the opportunity. I think that reflects in your answers, the fact that you don't want to just have the opportunity to just pick one company or another. That I think you'd be the kind of guy where you're like, well, maybe I want to work for AAA for a little bit, and then maybe I want to work for New Japan, and then maybe I'll go back to WWE, and then maybe I'll go to MLW for a little bit and chill out. And you can put on whatever kind of match you want. You're like, I get to have these flippy matches on the indies when I want to, but then I can have these grounded grapple-based wrestling matches that I want on a, something a little more refined, or so to speak. But I just thought I'd take the opportunity to say that to you, and
appreciate it,
of course. And just to throw it back to you, Haas.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier about the training that you did during COVID, and there's a lot of people that they came back from COVID, and you could see that their game wasn't elevated at all, or some of them had actually lost a step during COVID, and those people you could kind of tell hadn't trained. But when you came back, your game had actually elevated after COVID, and so you could tell that you really did put in the work during COVID. And I never really, obviously, knew exactly how you would train during COVID until we got some information from you and stuff. But it was just the seeing the dedication, and you can actually see the dedication in your crafting in the ring. So
no, I always want to put in that work. Like I said, training's never over. You're always training.
So, and so, how did what made you fall in love with wrestling, and who were some of your inspirations and your wrestling style? We've already talked about a couple of them, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I fell in love with wrestling literally a month after I was born. Month after I was born, WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. That, like, my mom was a huge wrestling fan even before I was born, and then I was born, and she, she'd be raising me, and I'd be watching wrestling the entire time. My first words were literally Hulk Hogan. Not mom, not dad, Hulk Hogan.
Your first words were, "Let me tell you something, brother."
Brother. Brother. Let me tell you something, brother. But no,
let me tell you something, mother.
But yeah, no, I fell in love with wrestling from childhood. Like, I watched wrestling all the time. I like when I got a little older and was watching it, more as a kid, but more dedicated. Monday Night Raw would come on like an hour before I have to go to bed. I'd go to bed and I'd just sneak out the door and watch wrestling from the hallway until my mom noticed me, and then I'd run back into bed. I watched wrestling every opportunity I get. I wake up early on Saturdays to watch, Saturday morning wrestling, Sunday night heat, anytime wrestling is on. Me and my family, we watch all wrestling too. Like, we'd switch between WCW and WWE during commercial breaks. Like, what's going on now? What's going on there? I watched wrestling a lot as a kid. And the Attitude Era was the biggest, oh, I love wrestling so much era for me. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Rock, Kurt Angle, Mankind, Jeff Hardy, who's my favorite wrestler. It was that time was when I was super, super, super into it. But then there was a time that I fell out of wrestling, and that was during the Ruthless Aggression era.
All fans have that moment, right?
Yeah,
where we slowly stop liking wrestling.
Yeah, no, some of the stuff they were doing in WWE was just a bit too ridiculous. Like the whole Mae Young Mark Henry storyline, that was a whole hand joke for 6 months. It was at that point I was like, maybe this isn't doing it for me anymore, and I should stop watching.
Maybe I don't like wrestling as much as I
and there was a time I stopped. I missed pretty much all of John Cena's career, all of CM Punk's stuff at WWE. There was a lot of people I missed, and then when I got into college, and a few of my friends found out that I used to watch wrestling all the time, it was like, "You got to watch wrestling with us." I was like, "I don't know, I'm not really into it." I was like, "Come on, man." It's like, all right, fine. So I go watch the Royal Rumble, the one where Shinsuke Nakamura won it, went up against AJ Styles. Watched that Royal Rumble, and I was like, "Yep, I'm back in. I'm back in. This is
Just
great."
When I think I'm out, they pull me back
in. And
such a good Rumble to start with. Sorry to cut you off.
No, it was.
Lord.
It was very, seeing Shinsuke Nakamura win the Rumble too, and it was the first time I saw Shinsuke Nakamura, and I was like, "This guy's awesome! I want him to win." And then he won. I was like, "Oh, I want him to win WrestleMania now." It was I fell in love with Shinsuke immediately when I saw him in the Royal Rumble, and then I went back and watched some of his NXT stuff, and I was like, "Holy crap, this guy's great!" And
I got the heck of a playlist for you as far as Nakamura NJPW matches go, because he hit different. If you thought
Oh,
his
I've seen some of the stuff.
have you seen the entrance for Wrestle Kingdom 9 with the stripper
Yes.
poles and the fire, and he came out with the leather jacket? If that's your peak for wrestling, I want to see that out of you coming a couple years from now, Kaylin.
Like, Shinsuke is more than just a wrestler; he is a showman. But yeah, like, I got back into wrestling, and like, when I get back into something, I got back into it hard. I was buying replica titles because I was like, yeah, these things are awesome. I didn't know I could get like a full-fledged replica title that actually had some weight to it instead of those like kitty Velcro made of foam things at Walmart. Like, I got really back into it, and that's when I got into training too, because I was just scrolling through Facebook one day and saw an advertisement. Do you want to train to be a professional wrestler? I was like, yes, I do. And that's how I got into WDWA. It was a sheer dumb luck find on Facebook.
Yeah, can't tell you how many guests we've had that actually have had that for their introductions into the wrestling business, right, Hoss? I want to say Retro Red had that for one time. I want to say a couple people that had advertisements. So it's a very common way to get into the wrestling business, but obviously it pays dividends.
Oh, 100%. You got to keep your eyes open. Like, if you want to get into it, get your feelers out there, look around. You might not be as lucky as I did and just luck into a place that was 10 minutes down the road from my house to train.
There you go.
So since coming in, I've seen different personas that you have portrayed. And of course, one you don't like to talk about, and I said we wouldn't talk about it, and I'll keep to that. And then,
hey man, I'm pretty sure the cat's out of the bag. I wouldn't care if we talked about it.
Well, yeah, but yeah. So obviously we had you were doing Dance Lucha for a little while, and then you were also the Mouth of Manhattan, and now you have another new side to you, and I've actually got a picture of it here. So how did that persona come to be, and which one of your personas do you enjoy playing the most?
That character, which I call Wrath. I haven't debuted the name yet, but hey, here it is. There's the debut of the name. Like, I've been working on that character for like the past 2 years. Like, it's been a thing I've wanted to do for a long time. And it's like, everything I do with my wrestling persona, I pull from real life. I pull from my actual things about myself. When it came to Dance Dance Lucha Libre, I lucked out into that. That was actually a gift gimmick from a friend. Mike Noland actually gave me that gimmick. It's how I debuted. They wanted to put me under the hood, and I was like, they asked me, hey man, do you know how to dance? I'm like, do I know how to dance? And so, like, they had me do the gimmick to test out for them, and they were like, yeah, we're going to put you in the ring as this character. I was like, all right, awesome. That's how I debuted, and I have fun with that character. That's the fun, dancey. I like to go out there and be a bit of a joker, because that's how I was as a kid. I was the joke. I was the class clown. I was the joker as a kid. Then Manhattan Megamouth. Originally, LT wanted to debut me as Mr. Political Kaylin Patrick, because me and him have varying different political views and everything. But luckily, we managed to talk him out of that. And one day, him and Steve were shopping and found a toy megaphone. And I was like, hey, Kaylin, you always talk all the time. Why don't you use this in the ring? And they did it as a joke. And I was like, you have no idea how much I will 100% play into this. And that's how that got created. They gave me that toy megaphone. It was like, if you want me to be the mouth, I will be the mouth. Because that used to be my old nickname from my mom. She called me, you're just the mouth. You're the mouth. And, thank you, Jess. I used to play Dance Dance Revolution religiously when I was growing up. I played it so much my feet would bleed. Yeah. But like when he gave me the megaphone and, I was just like, I'm already the mouth. Let's just make me louder, because I'm already a loud enough dude as it is. There's no reason we can't go up to 11. And I was like, I motivate myself every morning by talking myself in the mirror. Is like, you're an amazing person. Go out there, freaking seize the day, carpe diem. And like, I was like, how can I make that cockier? I was like, oh, just how the attitude of how I say it. That's how I can make it cockier and be the heel guy, the guy that everyone hates talking. Like, I'm the guy who always is talking to you when you just want him to shut up. And I was like, oh, you want me to shut up? Well, I guess I'll just talk louder then, because you enjoy my voice so much. And so that's how that character came to be. I was just like, let's turn my attitude up to 11. And boom, that's how that character came about. And the newest character, my newest iteration of myself, is growing up, I had brothers. We were not friends to each other. We were siblings. We had sibling rivalries. We got into fights all the time. And it wasn't just arguments. We got into fist fights all the time. So, like, I'd always have that anger, bottled up in me. And like, being the class clown, people make fun of me and pick on me at school. So I kept that anger bottled up in me until just sometimes I'd explode and just get into fights, really bad fights. And I was like, I can turn just thinking of this character, I was like, I could do something with that. Like, there's plenty of times where I've gotten super angry and just wanted to let it all out. And that's what this character is. The whole story behind it is like, I'm getting so angry at these people that I've just blacked out, and he comes out. Separate persona, a whole different personality who's like, if you won't do the work, I will. And he just takes over, and that's where that character came in. It's that all that anger, all that frustration that's finally boiled up and came to the surf, and he's like, you lost, nice, Kaylin. Now you have me.
Well, and they say that the best gimmicks, are reflective of somebody's personality.
Exactly.
The best personas that we find in wrestling are just, like you say, it's their regular personalities just turned up to 11. So it's like,
Exactly.
I find that the best kind of art comes from that as far as wrestling. So I really want to see the success as far as Wrath is concerned, Kaylin. But not to talk over you, Haas.
No, you're fine. And honestly, you know how I realized you were Dance Lucha?
Tattoos?
No, because you always kept them covered. But what gave it away for me was one day in Berkeley Springs. It was shortly after you started. You came out, and it's when Dance Lucha was wearing two-piece outfits and stuff, like all one. And you would come out, and you had wrestled a match, and it was just before halftime. You would went into the back, and then halftime hit, and at this point you were still, Kaylin Patrick was still face because you were relatively new.
Yeah.
And then you came out at halftime to talk to fans and stuff, and you were standing back there, and I looked, and I was like, and I tapped Susie, and I said, "Hey, look." She said, "What?" I said, "That guy over there, Kaylin?" She said, "Yes, he's wearing Dance Lucha's pants. You had forgotten to change your pants."
The illusion is ruined.
No. Like LT wanted me to keep that hidden for a long, long time, and I was like, I did my best. I was making sure, like sometimes he'd accidentally book Dance and me back-to-back matches, and I'd be like, hey man, I can't change in 3 seconds. You got to move these matches. And like people were eventually starting to find out everything. Like, sometimes my shirt would hike up a little bit more, and my tattoos on my back would show, and people were like, oh, that's the same tattoos. Because as myself, I wrestle without a shirt because I want to show off those tattoos and the rest of me. Just like, I mean, I think enough people have called me out as Dance enough to where it's like, I'm pretty sure everyone knows. Like, I'm not gonna be like upfront about it. I'll still be like, hey, aren't you Dance? And if I don't really know the guy and they haven't seen me enough, I'll be like, don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, you tried to play it off and LT even tried telling me,
yeah,
they aren't the same. What would make you think they're the same? And then when I told him that story, he just went, rookie mistake. So, but so now to get into the business side of it a little bit here and into the ring, you know, you have been having feuds lately with a lot of the people that seem to surround Zakar, and especially Austin Kingsley. You know, what's up with that guy?
He doesn't know how to take no for an answer. Like, he keeps flirting with Jessica, who is my in real life girlfriend. It's not just a show that we put on for the crowd. Me and her are dating. We've been dating for the past 2 years now. Love her to death. And she does our national anthem. And so he thinks he's Mr. Steal Your Girl when in fact that's my job. And so like him constantly flirting with my girlfriend, I'm not going to just take that. I'm going to do something about it. I'm not just some guy who's like, oh, she can handle herself. I was like, she can handle herself, but I'm still going to do something about it. Like, don't flirt with my girlfriend in front of me or I'll punch you. And so, I'm just still dealing with him. I guess beating him during the turkey brawl wasn't enough to get him to stop. So I guess I'm going to have to do something to just squash that beef and get him to move on. Yep. Jess has slapped him in the face. It was a good slap.
Yeah, she did. She had a good slap there. I'll remember that.
I'm gonna have to find that clip because I wasn't able to catch it, but I've had a couple of clips of the of that individual, and let's just say he's less than stellar when it comes to personality wise. So if I could get at least one clip of somebody cleaning him up in the face right there, I'd love to see it.
That's what you get when you get rich boys. Rich boys always think that money does everything.
Right. Except make them likable.
Yeah. Makes them less likable, if anything.
She said she wishes there was a clip of that because that was a very proud moment for her. And that she should do it again. But yeah, and I know another individual who has been on Wrestle Talk is Bo Ross, who you used to tag with.
Yes.
And you and him kind of went your separate ways and had your issues. Have you guys squashed the beef between you, or is that just kind of on simmer for a little while?
I think that one's on simmer for a little while. Like, I haven't seen him recently, but like we still didn't quite end our thing. The last time we met each other in the ring before the turkey brawl was a tag match. It was me and my mystery tag partner versus him and Jason Curtis, who was part of the Motor Mouths as well. He was our bodyguard, basically. And, it was me and my mystery partner, who turned out to be Jordan Evans, who I had actually beaten for the Mid-Atlantic Championship before when his brother turned on him. And, I managed to get him to team up with me, and we won the match, but like, if anything, like it was still a tag match. It was still both of them involved. And I had a lot more beef with Bo than I did with Jason Curtis. And I feel that me and Bo still have some things we got to deal with, to finish that story, to quote Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. Because I know you guys were going at it pretty good. And then the night the fans got to pick the matches, somebody wanted to put you in a match against him, and then Bo was all of a sudden. I think he's got more beef with that guy over there, so it seemed like he might have been a little hesitant to get back in the ring with you. But that's just the way it seemed.
Possibly. At the same time, I think he was also looking for an opportunity to, like, if I did win the match, I'd go in a little weaker into the match. Maybe he could take that to his advantage. But I mean, I did have more beef with Austin Kingsley at that point, so I was more happy to take that match than the match with Bo.
So, and you mentioned Jason Curtis. We're actually going to have him on here. I believe it's next month he's coming on. So it's but I had another question in my mind that just left my mind. Anyway, yeah. So I know you and I have a few times after the matches talked just wrestling, like AEW and stuff, and your thoughts. So what's your thoughts on the whole TNA right now and their momentum right now after this weekend? What are your thoughts on their momentum?
I think with the way Hard to Kill turned out, like things I think can really only go up from there. Like they had an amazing show. Nick Nemeth showed up. Like I was listening to all your questions when you guys were going through the randomizer, and I was like, oh man, I wish I could put some input on this. Like for all the questions you guys
Now's
were
your
talking
chance,
about.
man. I mean, we can run down the list real quick if you want. But
Oh
you
man,
can continue off of TNA real quick.
and honestly, a lot of my things are going to be a lot more simple compared to what you guys were saying. But like, yeah, like with Nick Nemeth showing up in TNA, like I think things are going to really start going like with how good Hard to Kill turned out to be. That's definitely going to bump up their stuff. The only thing they got to do is they got to concentrate and keep going with that momentum. They have to keep that same energy for a like they have to keep it constant. They have to keep that same energy all year long if they really want to like really get that show to where they want it to be. The more energy they put into it, the more more they put into putting on shows like that into the future is only going to help them. And I really hope that that's what they do. And yeah, like Bernie says, if they can score a network deal, getting a lot more eyes on it, because like when I first got into TNA, it was during COVID when they were doing their shows on Twitch. So I was like, oh, cool, I can watch wrestling on Twitch. Awesome, I'll do that. And so I was watching that and everything. And like I saw Moose on there, I was like, Moose is great. This guy's awesome. Like just a brick shit house of muscle. And you know, just like
match with Tomohiro Ishii. That's what sold me on Moose.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Ishii, and now I'm 100% down for that match.
Yeah, it's just I leathered the shit out of each other.
But yeah, like if TNA can keep that energy that they had for Hard to Kill throughout the rest of this year, and really push TNA to the forefront and really show people, hey, we're not just some bargain bin WWE or AEW. That's only going to help them out. They just have to keep that energy. They have to put in all of the momentum they can to really push that through. Getting like Nick Nemeth on there, Dolph Ziggler on there. It was like, oh, Dolph Ziggler is on TNA now. I got to watch that. That's a great opportunity for them to get those eyes on the product. And that's what they want. They need to get as many eyes on that product as possible. And pushing Nick Nemeth, like really getting his face out there, what for sure is going to help, pushing the brand, like really getting it out there, promoting a lot more, really showing off that they can put on the same quality of matches that you'll see on WWE and AEW. That's what they need to do. And if they can keep that going, if they can keep that momentum, that's only going to help them. And yeah, getting a network deal or just some way to get a lot more eyes on that product, that's something they need to do. Even if they think it might be risky or not, like it's better to take the risk and have it pay off than to not take the risk and not get that push you need.
You miss all the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
And Bernie, you might want to check. I don't know what area you live in, but as far as Access TV not being on Xfinity, I know in my area, in this area, it is on Xfinity. I actually just recently found it because I wanted, the whole thing got me invested in TNA again. So I actually did find it on television. And on Thursday nights, they run the TNA followed by New Japan. So might want to check and see if it is available in your area. But and one of our co-hosts here, Renee Martinez, the Night Owl, he actually put in a question here for you. He wants to know who has the best super kick in the business. Who do you think has the best super kick?
That is a difficult question because so many people do super kicks, but then there's those people who have there's people that have those really, really good super kicks. Like honestly, I really like Keikoa's super kick. Keikoa has an amazing super kick if we're covering all of our bases here. But like I like Nick Nemeth's super kick, his Shawn Michaels inspired sweet chin music. He tunes up the band. He's got those really long legs to really throw that leg out and get a really good super kick in. Like, I love his as well. Young Bucks and the Usos, they have a pretty standard super kick. What really sets their super kicks apart from others is tag team super kick, double super kick. It's like their super kicks are good as a tag team. Individually, I think Dolph Ziggler's Nick Nemeth is better. Like I've gotten into this conversation about frog splashes too. It's like
I could talk about this all night.
Yeah, like when it comes to frog splashes, D'Lo Brown, hands down, best frog splash. Like, I love D'Lo Brown's frog splash. RVD, close second with his 5-star. Eddie Guerrero, third place with his, crumpled up frog splash. But D'Lo Brown, the way he split his legs when he did his frog splash, love it. Love it.
I think for me, frog splashes are like buffalo wings. They each have a different flavor, and you can appreciate them for the little details. Because what I loved, just to build off of what you were saying, just what I loved about RVD's, his looked like it actually hurt. Just the way that he bounced off the mat.
Not only that, but just
oh my god,
so much air for it. 10, 15 years ago, like when he was really in his prime, just the amount of air. He's like freaking what's his name from the Street Profits with the amount
Montez
of air.
Ford.
Yeah, Montez Ford.
He gets
the amount
so
of
much
air.
height. It's ridiculous.
The amount of air RVD would get with those 5-star frog splashes, which is why he's my number 2 over Eddie Guerrero, because just the amount of air he got.
And it was just distance too, because
he
did it, the guy was so far away.
Yeah, it didn't matter how far away you were, he was getting to you.
He could make it. He would scope you like nothing. It was crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, super kicks. I gotta give it to Nick Nemeth as favorite super kick, with Keikoa definitely being a close second. Hio del Vikingo is amazing. I don't know how he does the things he does, but just so agile, so amazingly agile. I wish I could run a tightrope like that, man. But I got good balance. I ain't got that good balance. But Del Vikingo is like, the first time I saw him was on AEW. He had this following before then, and it was like I saw him on AEW. It was like, oh, cool. I love this guy's look. A Spanish freaking Viking. Yes, please. And then I saw his in-ring work, and I was like, this man is not a human being.
Joints are made out of springs. He is not real. It's just
the amount of things that man can do is unbelievable and just so amazing.
So,
we got any more questions from Night Owl in the comment section?
Not yet.
Unofficial
Royal Rumble.
Okay.
I'd love to hear.
I think you guys are making it too complicated. Like, you have all these things. Like, I honestly do think Cody Rhodes is going to win the second time, but I think because CM Punk will probably be one of the final 4, he'll still go after Seth Rollins as long as he's not injured. My thought process was that Cody Rhodes goes against Roman Reigns to finish the story. CM Punk goes against Seth Rollins. He beats Seth Rollins. Damian Priest cashes in and wins. CM Punk gets that win for like 5 minutes. Damian Priest immediately Damian Priest with the heist of the century part 2, especially on Seth Rollins. Full circle. That's how I see it going. But that all depends on solution. Yes, it's a perfect solution.
Because you get to check all the boxes. Like I said, it's like, because for me, that's my biggest thing with Punk, is that I'm like, I don't know that he wants the belt per se. He just wants the main event. So it's like, this way you knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. You get the hype for the people who actually want CM Punk to get the belt, and then you immediately steal it away from them. And it's like, congratulations.
and then that goes
for 5 minutes.
And then that goes in for CM Punk, Damian Priest feud right there. And Maybe CM Punk wins it. Maybe Damian Priest retains. I would hope Damian Priest retains. I think Damian Priest would be amazing as a world champion. I really do. I think he's definitely in the position to really make that work for him, especially if they keep Judgment Day together.
Now,
But
I have to ask, who do you think would win the Women's Royal Rumble?
With how they've been building it and possibly like with how everything's going, I wouldn't put it past them to have, even though people would probably hate it, Nia Jax. Just Nia Jax, Rhea Ripley, WrestleMania. Like, it would cause a definite stir in the wrestling community. People would 100% talk about it for sure. The only other person I could possibly see winning the Royal Rumble would be, and because of the way they've been building it, Bayley. And going after Io Sky.
Io, yep. I think
because so. Like with how Damage Control is treating Bayley, those are my two answers. It's either going to be Bayley or I think it's going to be Nia Jax at Royal Rumble.
I think Nia works a lot better because you get the heat off of it. You know what I mean? It's like, because now everybody's like, no, you're not going to lose, because then it plants that little doubt in your head where you're thinking, are they actually going to give Nia the fucking belt? Sorry to swear, but are they actually going to have her lose Rhea Ripley, our freaking indie darling, former UK champ, NXT champ, busting her ass, beat Charlotte last year, and we're going to lose to The Rock's cousin, or I mean, what was
now,
excuse me. So then
I'll tell you, I can see them 100% giving it to Nia Jax, but again, just like the men's situation, even if Bayley loses, still see Bayley Io Sky WrestleMania. Now, mind you, who I want to win the Royal Rumble is Shayna Baszler. She has come so close so many times, and when she was a champ in NXT, she was so dominant in NXT as a champion. And when they brought her onto the main roster, she was dominant too, and then they just didn't pull the trigger. And I'm like, she was 100% ready. It would have been Rhea Ripley before Rhea Ripley, in my opinion. Like,
really? No, I agree 100%. And then they dropped the ball with Rhea anyways, so it was like, what the hell?
Yeah, when Charlotte still beat Rhea Ripley, I was like, I am so upset with this outcome. But like, I want Shayna Baszler to win the Royal Rumble, but I think it's going to be Nia Jax, because I mean, Shayna Baszler has been dominant in both past Royal Rumbles she's been in, made it to the Final Four, ton of eliminations. I think she has the record for most eliminations in a Royal Rumble match, which she got in her first Royal Rumble match. She got like 16 eliminations. And like, I want Shayna Baszler to win the Royal Rumble, but I don't think they're going to give it to her again. They'll probably have her like put in a big show for the Rumble, but I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on it.
What other questions did we have? Just right? We wanted to get his opinion on some of these. We had the Royal Rumble.
Then there was the
Jack Perry. That's right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up.
But
yeah, when it comes to Jack Perry, Nick Nemeth, I think the Nick Nemeth one is a bigger deal because a lot more people are talking about that over the Jack Perry situation. Now, mind you, just because Jack Perry is in New Japan doesn't mean he's not going to be in AEW. Worlds collide. They constantly work with AEW. It could be a work. It could not be a work. He really could just be upset and actually going over to New Japan because he's upset. But that doesn't mean that he'll come back into AEW to start some stuff with storylines there, because they have their Worlds Collide pay-per-view every year. So like, just because Jack Perry's in New Japan doesn't mean we're not going to see him in AEW still. They work with New Japan all the time. 100% see him still working with AEW through New Japan. But I think with that barrier of New Japan and AEW having that, hey, they can be that middleman for whatever kind of backstage stuff that each person's going through, that can help cool the fire, so to speak, and people can work together a little bit easier. For sure. But like, when it comes to who I think was a bigger thing, Nick Nemeth, honestly, just Nick Nemeth and TNA. Way more people were reporting about that over everything. So much so that I didn't even know Jack Perry was in New Japan until you guys talked about it.
Well, there you go. That just goes to show what had the bigger impact. Yeah.
Yeah, like on Facebook, I get so many different wrestling feeds and everything. Not a single thing talking about Jack Perry being in New Japan. All of them talking about Nick Nemeth being in TNA. So, like, when it comes to like which one was bigger, it's obvious which one was bigger, but each one has their own flavor of ice cream, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah, because when Jack Perry debuted, he got in the ring and actually had his AEW contract and ripped it to shreds. So
Yeah,
And then he had
and
the
like
armband
that
that's a
could,
scapegoat.
yeah, that could be a work. It could not.
exactly.
When it honestly, sometimes when it comes to AEW, it's a little hard with only because of just all the backstage heat some people have in there. It's hard. It honestly is hard to tell what's a work and what's not, because there are some legitimate people back there who just do not like interacting with each other.
I mean, it's just like the whole MJF thing. I swear, I believe it is a work, 100% a work. I think he's already got his contract in place. Once he heals up, because he is injured, he'll be back in AEW. But, they keep saying, oh, no, he's a free agent. He's a free agent. And where's he going? Where's he going? Well,
I don't think MJF's going to show up in the Royal Rumble. I don't. With how they ended the Devil scenario, you can't tell me MJF is going to be in the same situation he put Chris Jericho in. It's just it's going to be that scenario. It's like this whole storyline, which has also 100% been amazing. It's MJF is getting the medicine he gave to other people. He's going through the same things he made other people go through. And I think that is amazing as a story. His character has been growing so quickly just because of the whole Adam Cole situation. And like, I have fallen in love with MJF even more. Like, I liked MJF when he first started as that mega heel douchebag from Long Island. Shout out to Long Island. I'm from there too. And it's just like doing this whole thing with Adam Cole being not just the scumbag, but our scumbag has been such a good story that you can't tell me that AEW will not put everything they can to make sure MJF is going to stay with them. There's no way, I'm not going to say there's no way. There's that 0.01% chance he could show up at Royal Rumble. I don't think he is. I think he's still going to be with AEW. There's no reason not to do that storyline with Undisputed Kingdom. It's such a good storyline. It's right there. It's going to have eyes on it, especially if people think about it as MJF getting the medicine he dished out. He's like, I put Chris Jericho through this. Now I got to go through the same exact thing. I put other people through this situation. I got to do the exact same thing now. I'm getting a taste of my own medicine, and I got to work through that and become a bigger person. And I think that's an amazing storyline, and I hope to God they keep pushing it.
I definitely think it's a level of nuance on behalf of MJF as a wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
It's we get to study this. It's like people have done these actually. There's like a video edit that somebody did between the Punk and MJF feud that they did, and they filmed it like there were so many edits and like they made it look perfect. And I love MJF to know. You could do a character study about this. Like, this is actual writing 101 where it's like, This is what the character's going through. This is where they've grown. This is where they changed. This is what's different. And I agree that it's like, could there be the potential in him showing up in the Royal Rumble? Sure. But I don't see any rhyme or reason for him to do so, because there's way more potential in running this story about him going through his own trials and tribulation and then coming out as the guy that we want him to be, or becoming even more of a scumbag asshole. Like, he could,
exactly.
If anybody could figure out a way to out heal himself, it's MJF.
And
and
not only that,
an AEW.
Yeah, and not only that, but like sticking with the AEW storyline, sticking with AEW is also the safer bet, because he's got something there. He knows he's going to be on TV constantly because of this story. Like, he's going to get that screen time. He's going to get people with eyes on him. He's going to have all of those people who are watching him because of that storyline, especially how they dropped it on him with Adam Cole being the devil. But if he goes to WWE, fresh slate, he's starting from scratch. The only thing only person there he has any kind of past with is Cody Rhodes. And with everything they're doing with Cody Rhodes, I don't see them putting MJF and Cody Rhodes to like initialize that storyline, especially with how Cody Rhodes is probably going to win the title and everything. Having that, just MJF right now has so much opportunity in AEW to be staying on top as that guy. Whereas if he goes to WWE, like, yeah, people are going to notice that. People are going to see him. But, like, they got to find something for him to do. Whereas with AEW, he's already got something. He has something that they can continue to build on and continue to make it bigger. Whereas with WWE, it's like, all right, fresh slate. What do you want to do? What do we want to do with MJF? And it's like, when you put that into consideration, there's no reason Tony Khan wouldn't put all of his effort into keeping MJF. Because he's got that storyline. He's got that thing that's going to keep eyes on AEW. Because people are going to want to watch that storyline. They're going to want to continue that.
Oh, I agree. And like I said, I totally think that the whole thing's a work and MJF's coming back. And of course, they're going to have the surprise reveal that he's coming back. And it's all just going to be to put more eyes on the product.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So, do you have any questions, Gabe? Any more questions for him?
No, not really. I'll be honest. I'm ready for our next segment if we're able to. Not to be subtle about it, but
no, it's all good. It's all good.
Transitions.
All right. Well, as I was explaining to you, when I asked you about the show, we have a segment that we call the Wrestle Talk Podcast World Famous Game Show Challenge, and it's basically just a little trivia challenge that would take place between yourself if you're game and Gabe tonight. So, are you interested?
I'm always down. I've got a lot of memories from the 80s and 90s, but then there's that 2000s gap. So hopefully I'll find something that I remember.
How convenient that the genre is 2000s. No.
You bastards. I've been conned.
As I slip him a $10 bill. Any ruthless aggression question?
Crap. Actually, I only saw the very beginning of the ruthless aggression era.
Actually, I did not make the questions, and so I did not make the category either, but it is not 2000. So we actually have some music here to start us off. Music. This is a whole little thing here.
Love me some music. And now it's time for a feature presentation.
Welcome to this week's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 falls. Our contestants are Kaylin Patrick and Gabriel Arsene. In a few moments, I will ask you 3 questions about a particular professional wrestling topic. When you think you know the answer to the questions, shout out your answer. The first person to win 2 out of 3 falls will win tonight's game show challenge. Tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge category is King of the Ring.
Oh, God.
I will give you information.
You mean all those King of the Rings that I used to watch?
Yeah, I might be screwed here.
I will give you information about 3 professional wrestlers who have won the King of the Ring. When you think you know the answer, shout out your answer. The first person to win 2 out of 3 falls wins tonight's contest. If you shout out an answer and it is not the correct answer, you may continue to shout out an answer. So it's not a one-time thing only.
All right.
So are you both clear on the rules and ready to go?
I'm ready.
I'm ready too. Let's do it.
All right. Well, The first question, ironically for Gabe, in 2001, this WWE Hall of Famer defeated Rhino and Kurt Angle to win the King of the Ring.
Was Edge?
That is correct.
Yes.
So Gabriel takes the first fall.
I had to think about it for a second because my brain heard 2001, and I don't know why I thought Brock Lesnar. I'm like, he's not. Yeah.
I started reading that question, and my first thought was, he said not the 2000s. So, question number 2. Many professional wrestling fans think that this late WWF Hall of Famer was the first King of the Ring, but he was actually the second. Prior to winning the King of the Ring in 1986, he was an 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Who is Harley Race?
Bobby Heenan.
Harley Race is correct.
Hey! All right. Well, I'm going to throw this out there, Kaylin, because I really appreciate you. What we're going to do, we're going to go to the third question, and if you manage to get it, we're going to just clean slate. You get the whole thing if you manage to score this last one for the third question. If I blow my lead here, but I might be getting a little too overconfident, but I like you, and I want to give you an opportunity here. So, all righty.
All right. This WWE wrestler and former multi-time WWE Tag Team Champion is the last recognized WWE King of the Ring. You could see him.
Xavier Woods.
That is correct. Xavier Woods.
God, I wish they did more with that. I wanted Xavier Woods to have such a better run with the King of the Ring. It was such a good choice.
And just like that, our scene slips right through my fingers, folks.
Yep, you gave it away at the last moment. So we have just a little music clip here.
Winner of the match, Kaylin Patrick.
Final Fantasy battle theme or victory theme.
I'm so glad somebody on this podcast can recognize it besides me.
Huge nerd.
But actually, if I could get one last question before we throw out, this is the nerdiest question I can ask. Since you have the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, I have to ask, who is your favorite Ranger?
The original Black Ranger.
Yes. Oh, vibe pass.
100%.
That is such a vibe check.
Zach was the best Black Ranger, and I don't want to hear anyone say.
Come on.
Oh my God! Like no, original Black Ranger. Zach was the best. Yes. Period.
Oh man. I think I found one of my new favorite guests for 2020. This is a pretty high bar for 2024, guys. Kaylin Patrick setting it pretty high. Any future Wrestle Talk podcast guests, you got some pretty big shoes to fill, courtesy of Kaylin Patrick.
I appreciate that.
So, Kaylin, it's been a pleasure. Before we go, I know you don't have many socials that you use. But if you wouldn't mind shouting out where your socials that people can find you and where they can see you next, what you have coming up.
I'm primarily on Facebook under my real name, Kaylin Miller. Patrick's just my middle name. I'm on Twitter under at K-Trick, K-Trick. And I'm on Instagram as well as Remotely Mellow. That's pretty much the socials I tend to use mostly. And as far as future shows, I'm actually going to be at Voltage Wrestling this Friday in Waynesboro, PA. No idea who I'm going against, but we'll find out when I get there. And then I will be at the next WDWA show, February 10th, I believe.
All right. As a matter of fact, Bernie's putting in here, see Kaylin Voltage Wrestling Friday night in Waynesboro and WDWA February 10th.
February 10th.
Can I get the Twitter, by the way? I wasn't able to type it fast enough. I try to follow our guest on the show if I can.
K-Trick.
Trick, K-Trick. There we go.
Yeah.
Hold up, people.
It's my nickname in high school. That's also the name I want to start using in the ring as well, because it's a mix between my first and my middle name.
And
I'm
Jessica
trying to
says
find
your
it.
opponent was
Oh.
announced earlier.
Oh, then I missed it. Now I'm going to have to look up who I'm going against.
Well, I tell you what. Let me see here if.
Oh boy! I hope it's somebody I haven't wrestled yet.
So here's a bit of breaking news for you. It says just added. AK takes on returning Kaylin Patrick this Friday night in Waynesboro, PA.
Oh, no, it's KAYTRIC.
There we go.
at KAYTRIC for Twitter. I don't care if they call it X; it's still Twitter to me.
Wait. You said KAY at TRIC?
No, at KAYTRIC. Yeah. I just double checked it to make sure.
There we go. All right.
But all right, AK, I'm excited for that.
There we go. Bam.
I haven't wrestled him yet. I haven't wrestled AK yet, so I'm excited for that.
Wishing you the best here, man. I can't wait to see it.
Should be a pretty good match. So there you go. We got to break a little news here for you.
All right, now I'm excited for Friday. Can't wait.
So, Kaylin, I'd like to be the first to officially welcome you to the Wrestle Talk podcast family. You know, it's been great having you. Anything you'd like to say to the fans or anything in parting?
If you got an indie show, if you got an indie wrestling show in your area, go and see it. You'll see you'll see good wrestling. Like, wrestling's all around you. Don't be afraid to get your eyes open and start looking around. People put posters around still all the time. If you're at those, those side shops that you go to, you see a wrestling poster, go and see wrestling. Go watch it. Indie shows aren't that expensive, and you'd be surprised how awesome indie wrestling shows can be. So get out there and watch it.
And Bernie says if you can't make that Voltage show, that it is a TV taping, which will find its way to Voltage YouTube show in the future months. So,
and you'll probably see a couple of my previous matches on Voltage if you go onto their YouTube.
So, all right. Well, we appreciate you coming on. It's been a pleasure to chat with you, Kaylin, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon.
All right, man. Can't wait. Y'all take it easy.
That last thing is just, promise that you will come back.
Oh, of course. No, yeah. Ask me anytime, man. I'll make some time for this. This was fun.
All right. So thank you, Kaylin.
And thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Kaylin Patrick. So what did you think there, Gabe? I think I have an idea already of what you thought, but
I mean, I definitely dropped the ball on the quiz section, but I mean, very, very charming individual. I mean, just to have an opportunity to talk to anybody in the wrestling business, but also just to be able to bounce, ideas off of what we think is going to happen booking wise, but also just his own personal taste in wrestling. I mean, because everybody has their voice in this kind of thing, and it's always nice to hear somebody, like that. But especially because, I mean, I can kind of relate. I'm a bit of a nerd too, in more ways than one. So it's nice to have somebody a little closer age wise, I guess you could say. but I mean, I had a great time, Haas, and I mean, I'm glad we had a chance to do the show together. I mean, it's not ideal when we only have two people, but also it means we have more of an opportunity for us to be heard. We don't have to jump around between like 6 different people, only just trying to squeeze a word in, So I'd love to be able to do the show again, not just with Kaylin, but also to be able to work with you again, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm sure we'll get to work again. But last question for you before we leave here, and and before we go, let me just ask you real quick: did you get a chance? And I'm going to check out the next episode of it here just as soon as I log off because I have it on DVR. Did you get a chance to check out the big little brawlers on Discovery Channel?
I have not. I know Luke Roberts suggested it, and I know I'm slacking right now. I need to go check it out. I have to see if I have the actual channel available. I mean, I have Roku. Um, also, want to clarify. Gotta say, Kaylin Patrick, babyface man. Like quite literally, he's apparently 35 or 36. Excuse me, but I'm a little embarrassed. But in answering your question, no. Did you get a chance to watch it by chance though? Were you able to?
Oh yeah, I watched the very first episode last week. Just as soon as we logged off, I went on and watched and checked it out. And I can't wait to check out the second episode.
Very eye opening
It's
as far as micro wrestlers concerned.
Oh yeah, with micro wrestling, it really pulls back the curtain, and it's interesting to find out more about them. Of course, we actually have found out, sat down and talked with Ivar,
Mm,
who is Luke Roberts' nephew.
mm,
So it was we've have talked with him before, so to actually sit down and watch him, and through that I found out more about Ivar that I didn't actually know before, and it's just it's a good documentary. I really like watching it, and like I say, the second episode, it started about 25 minutes ago, so when uh when we do log off, I'm definitely going to go back and check out that second episode of it. So
I have to get her to watch then. I mean, it definitely sounds like good content.
yeah, so definitely, anybody out there who hasn't already checked it out, be sure to check out Big Little Brawlers on the Discovery Channel. It's all about the micro wrestling, and as I say, Ivar is a member of the Wrestle Talk podcast family, and it's definitely worth a watch.
Love to show our
So,
support.
all right, Gabe, it's been great, being here. Before we go, I want to shout out those sponsors one last time here.
By all means.
So let's go ahead and shout out our great sponsors here: Royal Mills Transportation, one and only Dewan Mills. If you're in the KC area and you need transportation, be sure to give him a call. Nobleman's Barber Lounge, KCMO. Ask for Pete the Barber. He won't make you look like me, I promise. 10K at Arcade at Oak Park Mall. Interstate 70 Sports Media. Little Popeyes Designs, where you get your very own Wrestle Talk podcast tumbler. And the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. And if you don't already have your Wrestle Talk podcast tumbler, be sure, if you want one, hit us up. We'll be more than happy to set you up with one. I have to double check on the price. I believe they're somewhere around $25 plus shipping, but I'm not positive on that price.
That's not bad for a
Um,
tumbler. Let's be real
no,
here.
it's not at all. And
Yeah.
they
Take
are
advantage,
top
folks.
notch quality tumblers. You can get your name put on them. Be sure to check those out, and support your Wrestle Talk podcast. But most of all, we're just happy to have all of you guys here with us tonight, watching us. We've had a pretty good crowd out there tonight, and we just want to thank you guys. And if you're catching us on the replay, we want to thank you for watching the replay. We appreciate you no matter what. All the eyes that watch us, we're happy to have you, whether it's live or not.
It
So
definitely made the time go by quickly. I mean, we didn't even. I mean, we had an opportunity to have CEO and Perry, and I mean, I know stuff happened, but look at how much we still covered in that time, man. Look at this. We're running
oh
about
yeah,
2 hours now. Look.
yeah, we've been here for almost 2.5 hours already.
Mhm.
So
I'd say that was a pretty good show. But we like Haas says though, we love the support from the fans. Even if you're catching it on the replay, we like that you guys take the time to watch our show, because I mean we are getting close to 500, and ever since our New Year's resolution, our New Year's resolution for the Wrestle Talk podcast is definitely trying to give you guys more content that you love to see, that you can really take the time to appreciate. And I mean, you wanna help sign us off, Hardcore Haas?
yeah, so that's episode 465 in the books. Next week we will continue on that road to episode 500. I believe next week I will be back. Gabriel will be back. We'll have the Night Owl in the house.
Gonna be accompanied by good old Night Owl.
That's it. We'll be looking at another great interview lined up here, and we'll be announcing here probably later on this week as to who that interview will be. So keep your eyes peeled to Facebook and X, and we'll be sure to keep you informed. So for Gabriel, for Night Owl, Chris Rodell, for all the Wrestle Talk podcast crew, we thank you, we love you, and be sure to tune in next week. Have a good night.